Say goodbye to the past, it's a victory. And I feel the start of a rush taking over me.
It is the race on the calendar. I'd love to go back to that.
3 horses in the Derby out of a small stable. It's sort of incredible.
Just to have a horse in the race with it, it's really exciting to lean into the weekend.
I think we're right where we need to be.
The race will start with, let's bring it on.
We're almost there. Derby Day out of Ellerslie. A very good evening and welcome along to our Derby special, where we will be here for 2 hours with the thanks to Kamara Park, of course, our First Call sponsorship, but we are going to go in depth on the Vodafone New Zealand Derby. We're also going to look around at the other races surrounding the race meeting and, of course, go abroad as well as we look at the Australian racing coming up this weekend, where we do have Catalyst lining up in the Australian Guineas, but of course interest as well with Probabile and Tiako Shark. So plenty to get through in the next couple of hours here on the First Call, joined by Michael Guerin. Michael, a very good evening to you. We're nearly there, Derby Day, and we've got 2 horses right at the top of the market.
Very special day, BP. Derby Day always is, but the add-ons this week are enormous. Obviously, the Catalyst, Australian Guineas, Probabile and Tiako Shark in Sydney. I think it's a derby there that's going to extend well into Saturday night. And it's a derby which is unusual because while everybody's thinking it's a 2-horse race, usually in a derby there's a but. There's a but somewhere. But will it stay? But can this guy train a derby winner? But will it handle the hard track? With the big 2 we're going to talk about very shortly, To Illicit and Dragon Leap, I'm finding it hard to find a but about either of them.
Yeah, and that's the hardest part, isn't it, Aidan, around how do you split these 2 runners with the form lines? They both come into the race.
Oh, it's exactly, and it's very, very difficult. I've sat on the fence going which way and the other all day and for the last couple of weeks really as well. But we only have to cast our mind back a year to know that derbies aren't just cut and dry. There's a $110 derby winner last year, and there's some decent horses who are outside that top 2. You know, we talk about Sherwood Forest and Scorps as well. Undoubtedly, they deserve their place at the top of the market, and it's making it so exciting. This is a derby for the ages. It's a cracking field with 2 really high-class leading contenders, and I can't wait to discuss it.
Yep, 5 minutes past 5 will be when the gates crash open over 2,400 metres at the top of the Ellerslie Racecourse. Well, it's time now to link in with Emily Bosson. Emily's going to be out roving this evening, and whereabouts are you, Emily?
Very good evening to you, Brendan. It's great to be part of the Derby preview show. And as you said, I'm out roving this evening. I'm probably not where you'd expect to find me. I'll give you 10 out of 10 if you can guess where I am. Not a stable or a trainer's place, but we're actually being hosted by Jason Waddell this evening. We'll see if he's home. We'll have a little, hopefully he is. His car's here, so fingers crossed. Here he is. He's going to be riding Dragon Leap, obviously, in the Derby. Jason, thanks so much for hosting us. Very kind of you.
Good evening, Emily. Yeah, no, welcome to our home, and let's see if we can decipher this Derby.
Let's have a little sit down on the couch and talk things through. Obviously, it was very highly spoke of, your choice of mount in the Derby. The market suggested that Dragon Leap would be the best option, but it was a pretty difficult decision for you, obviously choosing between Scorps as well. Talk me through that decision.
Yeah, by far the toughest decision I've had to make so far in my racing career. I've got a massive respect for Scorps, his staying ability and the faith that their connections and Stephen Marsh stable have shown through me through the past, and their loyalty. The fact that I'd ridden him twice for 2 stakes wins, and I haven't ridden Dragon's Leap at all on race day yet. It was, it was really hard, and obviously there's a couple of other factors that come into play with being able to obviously having guaranteed the ride on Scorps in Australia. The fact that Dragon Leap's ride is nowhere near guaranteed, and he probably only this will be his last run in New Zealand, with only maybe one more run in Australia before he heads to Paul O'Sullivan. So look, there's a few people I spoke to, and your husband was one, and his insight was very valuable to me. And after talking to him and a couple other people, yeah, the decision was made to ride Dragon's Leap. And I guess I'm not going to know until Saturday whether it's the right one. The market says I've chosen the right horse, but I've still got a lot of belief in Scorps and his ability. So it's going to be a fun race. It's my favourite race of the year to ride in, and I try and work hard to put myself in a position to be able to ride the best horse I possibly can, and to have the choice of two, it was fantastic. And yeah, fingers crossed we've chosen the right one.
Obviously, as you said, with it being one of the best races in New Zealand, is the lead up the same? Is the build up the same, or a little bit more anticipation, a little bit more study or form on your behalf, perhaps, for such a big day on Saturday?
Probably more relaxed now. The fact that I've won a Derby takes the pressure off me a lot, because it was my bucket list race to win. It was the number one race for me to win. So the fact that I've managed to win one now, I feel a lot more relaxed going into this one. I don't feel the pressure of riding a $2 favourite. I know his preparation's great. He's a fantastic horse with just great ability. So, you know, I understand what happens in a race. Everything can change. But no, I'm pretty relaxed going into it, and yeah, I feel good. You know, my preparation's been good. Jennifer Eccles kicked us off on Wednesday yesterday, and put us in the right frame of mind going forward. And yeah, it's cool.
Well, Brendan, as we get back to you, we'll be here with Jason a little bit later on. We're going to have a look at the speed map and also just a few more thoughts around the Derby. But from us for now, we'll see you later on.
Nice one. Thank you for that, Emily. And yeah, we'll rejoin you back at Jason's place there very shortly. But also we've got standing by in Thad Taylor live out of Petone. And Thad, this is a race where there's a lot of excitement. And of course, you've got two horses right at the top of the market in Dragon Leap and Two Illicit. Can't wait for the race. Good evening to you, Thad.
Yeah, good evening, Brendan. Great to be joining you, lads. Look, it's an intriguing derby for a number of reasons. But I guess the first thing is it a two-horse race? And I guess that's what we've had to try to work out here as bookmakers. It's what you and your experts are going to be trying to decipher tonight. And it's what, in the end, ultimately, what our customers are going to have to decide. Obviously, I'm referring to Dragon Leap and Two Illicit. Dragon Leap currently $2.40, Two Illicit $2.50. Look, in the first 24 hours of trading, it was dollar for dollar between the two, Dragon Leap and Two Illicit. Just in the last couple of hours, there's been a push towards Dragon Leap. And if I had to give you an edge, or who I think may start favourite, just off early betting, I would be going with Dragon Leap slightly ahead of Two Illicit, but don't be put off if you're a Two Illicit fan. Look, we have had 5,000 each way, Brendan, on Scorps, the runner-up in the Avondale Guineas at $14 and $2.90. That's a bet to return 84,500 around Scorps. And look, surprisingly, I'm not actually too concerned about that, because I know how much money is going to come for the two favourites, even though we have trimmed Scorps from 14 to 12. We were of the feeling here that perhaps the horses that were outside of the Avondale and Waikato Guineas would be perhaps the chances. And we talk about Vladivostok there and Reggie Wood, both in the teens there. Reggie Wood around $19. And with thoughts of Crown Prosecutor in our head, BP, from 12 months ago, the CD Raiders are having a little bit of a go at Shakespeare and Dalmatia for the Benner Wynyard team. And Den Bosch there for Peter Diddham as well at 100 to 1. See if we can recreate the Crown Prosecutor result from 12 months ago. But look, what I would have to say in summation is that I think Dragon Leap might start favourite in this year's Vodafone New Zealand Derby.
Right, then I'm interested in just around the futures market. Obviously, Dragon Leap was at a high of $10, and of course, Two Illicit was not nominated and was around that $8 mark. So what are your liabilities in that market?
Yeah, exactly right. Dragon Leap opened at $10. Plenty of people on early at that price. Did drop into $4 in late November, early December, Dragon Leap, after its debut. Look, Two Illicit was a late nomination into the Derby. The highest price was $8, so we didn't see. That's probably one of the better results for us. Dragon Leap, the likes of Dragon Leap, Tibetan and Scorps will be the worst way home for us from a futures perspective.
Right, thanks, Dad. We'll get you to join us again a little bit later on in the show as well, as we just maybe get more of an update around the Derby market, and we'll probably talk some other races as well. That's Thad Taylor out of Petone, but it is now time for the First Call Best Bets competition. Yes, the jackpot. Gee, we've got some money to give away on the show tonight. So $1,200 in bonus bets is available. So I think last week was probably the best chance that someone had a chance of pulling it off. Patsy's Lass was the horse that...
And we were all out.
Yeah, that if it just won.
They had to win. All they had to do was win. And we started favourite after all the scratchings. It became a 5-horse race. And unfortunately for our lucky punter, he missed
Unlucky,
out.
yeah. So if you're watching via our Facebook Live right now, you come through with your suggestion of what is the best bet for the weekend, and if you can outrun us, you will have a chance of winning $1,200 in bonus bets. But it doesn't stop there, because of this being our first call special surrounding the Vodafone New Zealand Derby. We also have 5 $500 bets to give away. So we've all got our selection for who we think we can win the race, and that'll be $500 on that particular runner. So
I thought you were going to give away some free knives there for a second.
Do you want some? No, all right.
Well, we tried to just mix it up a little bit with our thoughts as well. So it's just basically a case of just choosing who you want as well, isn't it? That's
correct. Yep. So whoever you want in terms of your $500 bet on, if it's Michael, Emily, the Shark, Aidan, or myself as well. So you've got till close to the end of the show, and get on Facebook for that to enter the competition. All right, let's crack into the race. Let's have a look at the Derby. But before we talk more about the race, Michael, you've been out at Ellerslie, so just give us the latest update.
Yeah, track's very firm. As you would expect, it's been incredibly hot if you're not watching this in Auckland over the last 6 weeks, like really hot. So anytime there is rain, and the rain which got to Pukekohe, you may have seen on trackside on Thursday, didn't make it to town. Any rain just evaporates off the track, so it would be about a 4 today. I walked it at 11 o'clock this morning, but the Derby's at 5 o'clock. So by that stage of the day, no matter how much water they put it on Friday night, it's going to come back to a 3. Most of the trainers I spoke to aren't concerned about that. Let's talk about the late into the summer. So there's a bit of wear and tear about 8 to 9 metres wide. That's right around the entire circuit. That's where the horses aren't going to be in the back straight unless they're trapped wide from a 1200. Coming in the home straight though, around that final bend, 8 to 9 metres out, it's a lot rougher. Now the inside 8 metres, which is about 4 horse widths, is perfect. It's comparable, there's no damage and no advantage one way or the other, apart from the natural advantage of being up against the inside. So horses swooping wide, coming out 5 and 6 wide, are going to be in worse ground, but anybody who stays inside that top 4 is going to be racing on what's a comparatively unrutted, and there's not many footmarks in it, fellas, and pretty even surface for that sort of about 8 metre gap.
He does a great job, doesn't he? Jason Fulford's one of the best in the country, and we know that he'll be preferring a surface that'll be fit for a derby.
I think the problem he's got, guys, just talking to lots of trainers about it, is they'll be reluctant to water it down to a 6 because nobody wants to make the track actually slow or on the verge of slow. So because they're reluctant to go to a 6 with this incredibly strong heat we have now, and of course they've had new drainage in there in the last 2 years, it works back to a 3 very quickly from a 5. And I think everybody would like a 4 for the Derby. That's how most people would be comfortable. But I'm not sure they'll water it to a 6 to get it to a 4, if that makes any sense.
No, it does. All right. Well, let's an update on the track. And I know Michael was out there power walking around the Ellerslie track with his Lycra.
Stumbling around the Ellerslie track.
With his 80s Lycra on as well. All right, let's talk about the Vodafone New Zealand Derby. And this is the market now, where it sits, Michael, where Dragon Leap's 240 and 252 illicit.
And everybody's talking about the market being so close, a war in 2. You heard from Thad, there's 5,000 each way, which has taken Scorps from 14s to 12s. I would suggest the way algorithms are going to affect the exchanges, gentlemen, that Dragon Leap will actually come in, and 2 illicit of the 2 is the more likely to drift. But hey, Rod, that's also going to be dependent a little bit on how punters see the speed map.
Yeah, it sure is. It's going to be really interesting as well. But there are some big prices outside there, though, isn't there, Brendan? There are those punters, especially around a derby, that will want to, especially on the back of Crown Prosecutor's $105 tote price last year, will want to have a crack.
I think horses like Sherwood Forest, your Scorps, to Betton, they're going to get some love.
Even a bit of Reggie Wood, who's been
Reggie
good
Wood,
in the last couple as well. So there's a few in that in behind that just might sort of take a bit of money. But like I agree with Michael that these two will be the dominant forces. And now they neither of them map well. And this is mapping it the first time. I was thinking, do I need to change this? I tried ringing Sam Spratt on Lock Winnick to see whether she'd go forward or back. And if she goes back one, then Tuilisa can maybe be on his outside. And that's one thing that Vinnie Colgan's got to be wary of. Is he going to be happy taking the fence, or is he going to try and use one of these horses to get one off? Scorps, Sherwood Forest from a wide gate will press forward. Tricky Little Barrier draw 12. I haven't got a horse in the 1-1, so there is a gap there. If Jason Wood-Dallin will try and get this out of him later on, wants to be really positive, and it's not really Dragon Leap's forte, there is a hole here. Vladis Vostok might take that up, and Dragon Leap might get in front of Den Bosch here. Tricky draw as well for Reggie Wood, Tibetan as well, but the main speed comes from Red Rufus and Peloton, and hopefully they make it genuine enough. Sherwood Forest doing a little bit of early work, but there's that long straight from the 2400 metre chute where they can get in. It's not a map, but especially if you're on Tuilisa or Dragon Leap that you really like. But they've got the two best riders probably that you'd want in a derby aboard them, so that sort of combats it a bit.
Is Peloton the real key to this race, though, in terms of how hard they do go? I mean, this is an Andrew Campbell trained runner that has gone forward. Do you believe that is the one that can maybe really inject some tempo into the race?
It is, and we've seen Camino Rocoso in recent starts really roll and get out in front, but a lot of the jockeys have been prepared to just let that horse go, so they've got to be able to still keep in contact to make it sure it's going to be genuinely run. Otherwise, here's one horse is going, we might have a sort of, back into the old Qatari Chief scenario where a horse is getting out, no one else cares about that sort of horse. On form, can he win a derby? Well, probably not. So let's concentrate on our own jobs, make sure our horse is in the zone, settling in a good rhythm, and then we'll run our own race. So there's a few interesting sort of specs of this derby.
It certainly is. Okay, let's come straight to you, Emily, because you're standing by with the man himself and Jason Wood-Dallin, as we've just spoken about the map, and certainly he's got a little bit to think about from his barrier draw of 12 with Dragon Leap.
He has a lot to think about, doesn't he? Because it's not the easiest of draws. Jason's had an opportunity to have a look at Aidan's speed map. He has you in a tricky position from what might be a tricky draw. How do you see things unfolding?
I hope I'm not where Aidan has me mapped. I would say Lance will have some stern words to me afterwards, but no, I definitely don't see me there. And look, I definitely see Peloton as the leader, not Red Rufus. I've been fortunate enough to ride 3 or 4 horses that are running in the derby, Sherwood Forest and Peloton, and obviously Scorps, and all of those horses are quite go-forward horses, but Peloton's, I think, or I believe, is definitely going to be the leader in the race, and that's how they want to ride, and that's how he's run all his best races of being in front. He doesn't seem to try quite as hard if he's outside the leader or a spot further back, so I think Maddie will definitely ride him forward and try and lead on him, especially with Andrew having a couple other runners in the race. And look, the speed's going to be up to Matt. And once he's in front, he's going to control the race. And he's a horse that likes to roll along. So, like the Derbies, the last 3 years, it's been run around in 2:28, and I sort of see it running around that sort of same time. Maybe even with the track playing quite fast to the low 2:28. So that's going to give every horse a pretty well a chance. It's been quite hard to come from back in the Derby the last few years. We've seen the likes of Vinda Dance, Mongolian Khan, Crown Prosecutor, they've all sort of sat in the first sort of 7 or 8. So
is that where you'd be hoping to be?
Yeah, I think so. Look, I haven't thought too much about my instructions yet. I'm fortunate enough to be riding for Lance, who was my idol growing up as a kid. He's a fantastic trainer, and it would give me great pleasure to be able to give him a derby as a trainer. He's also won 2 as a jockey. So, look, me and Lance will obviously sit down and go in depth into where we think the best spot for Dragon Leap is to be. Look, apart from Crown Prosecutor during Barrier 5 last year, the year before, Vinda Dance drew 13, Mongolian Khan drew 13, Rangapo drew 12, Ginger Nuts drew 12. So the barrier draws doesn't look to be too bad at this stage, but obviously when they jump out of the barriers, it all changes. So we'll have a few plans put in place. But yeah, if we could be probably in the first 10 would be ideal.
There's been a lot of talk about it being a match race, and you mentioned you've had a chance to ride a number of the horses. Do you see it just a war between yourself and Tuilisa, or is it more open than that?
No, not at all. I definitely don't see it as just a two-horse race. I think the TAB has it that way, and I can understand why. But, you know, Sherwood Forest, he's run third in the 2000 Guineas. Scorps is a good horse. Tibetan's probably one of the better maideners in the country. And you've got Reggie Wood, who's coming through a different kind of path to the other horses, but he looks like a real stayer, and he could be the real smoky in the race. So I don't think it's ever come down to a two-horse race in the Derby. Maybe Mongolian Crown, Volt, Stock and Barrel. But if it does, it's going to be great. That's what everyone's there to see, is the match race, the Catalyst, the Alligator Blood, the match race. But I'd be surprised if it is. If it is, hopefully it's Dragon Leap's race to win.
Well, we're here with Jason's 2018 New Zealand Derby Trophy. That was aboard Vinda Dance. He's hoping he can do it on Dragon Leap. And Aidan caught up with the connections earlier in the week.
I think we won it 2 years in a row, and it seemed pretty easy. And it's been a long time between drinks. Once you've won it, you really appreciate it. Probably similar to Excellent, where he's pretty inexperienced, but he's got a good turn of foot. But you just never know if they're going to stay till you try. They all look like they're going to stay at the sort of 300-metre mark, but there's only usually 2 or 3 left at the winning post. So we just got to hope we're one of those. Just to have a horse in the race with a jolly good chance, it's really exciting. So leading into the weekend for sure.
.236 and a dot.
Last we've just watched Dragon Leap work. Your reaction to that?
Yeah, no, he worked nicely, Aidan. We never did too much with him, but he certainly went to the line, well, and sort of ran right through the line. So yeah, pretty happy.
His win in the Avondale Guineas, obviously first class. How's he done since?
Yeah, look, he hasn't missed a note. He came home that night, ate everything, and has continued to do so. And he had just a really nice run, and I think nice effort by Opie to get him to the easy win like that. But it's allowed him just to go on, and just hasn't missed a beat.
Okay, just 1 week shorter than what you'd planned to go into the Derby. How's it affected the preparation?
I think it's had no effect whatsoever, really. We thought we'd give him 3 weeks, as we've always spaced his races, but the way he's done, the 2 weeks, we're quite happy. It's only a 2 week backup, to be honest.
He looks bright, but you know him best. How is he in himself?
Look, he's really happy. And he's eating, keen to go out and work, and he's just a very happy horse. So signs are looking good.
Tell us what he's done here on the track this morning.
Look, he just worked probably about 1,500 metres just at even times and quickened in his last 600. So we don't overtax him in his work, but it just seems to suit him just doing that sort of work with him.
Were you pleased with the way he worked?
Yeah, absolutely. He's never the flashiest track worker in the world, but he certainly went to the line pretty well this morning.
Okay, the big ones this weekend. How is he for it after watching that?
Yeah, look, we certainly haven't got any excuses for him. He's going to line up fit and well on the day, and hopefully he'll put his best foot forward.
Okay, is he the right sort of horse to win a Derby?
Oh, I think so. He's genetics say that he'll run the trip, and he's doing everything right. But a Derby's a Derby; they're never an easy race to win.
Exactly. I think you won a couple as a jockey, and you've gone very close on several occasions as a trainer. Could the weekend you knock one up in that column?
Well, we're like a few other trainers. We've got a very good chance in the race, and I certainly wouldn't be swapping him at this stage.
That's not who we are. We are not beautiful.
Yeah, nice work there from Aidan Rodley, catching up with both trainers, Lance O'Sullivan and Andrew Scott, around Dragon Leap. And there's nothing like getting there early in the morning and witnessing that as well. And you sort of got that feeling that we're getting close to the big dance. We're a few days out.
Absolutely. It's beautifully shot too by cameraman Danny Hunter there as well. But you get out there, you get a good feel for just how the horse is going. There's a bit of confidence in the camp. He's a cool horse. He's just a real dude. Takes everything in his stride. He's relaxed. He's just comfortable in himself. And yeah, he's the type of horse who could easily win this Derby. We want to see him do really well and then get him over to Australia and showcase him, because he looks an outstanding talent. He's only been beaten once, and that horse goes up against him on Saturday.
That's right. I think you make a good point about how relaxed he is, because he was very relaxed in the back parade ring on Avondale Guineas Day. I think he was a horse that just strode around in the back parade ring, and that is a back parade ring that, you know, that some horses do struggle with. But he just ambled around and he got out.
And it showed in his performance, didn't he? He was just so clinical in winning that Avondale Guineas. You know, he's a horse who's doing everything right, Michael. And you know, I thought this was just a performance that you wanted to see. It's just a perfect lead up. Really interesting early here, because Opie's drawn barrier 1 and wasn't he keen to get off the fence, and that was just set it up perfectly for the race.
His last 2 runs, he's been given beautiful rides. When James rode him in the Guineas, the first Guineas he won, he just positioned beautifully behind the right horse, and the same here with Opie. And that's the one thing you would say, if you could find a butt, because you keep looking for a reason not to back a $2.40 chance. I think he's the best horse in the race, and his form's outstanding, and we'll see this 33.5 second last 600 here, which I think this will win in the Derby. But if there's a but to him, it is he has been incredibly well ridden and should have won these races. In saying that, Jason is, with Opie out of the country, probably a #1 rider on this Saturday, and that being the case, you've got the right man to do the job. This is 2,100 metres. It's easy to say, is he going to stay 2,400? But it's only 300 metres more. If Opie had produced him 300 metres later, he would have done exactly the same thing.
The one thing about that race, it was just so sedately run. You know, they've run, 7 lengths slower than Vladivostok's run the rating 65 the next race. So that is the key. You know, if they can speed it up, maybe they get, those 2 favourites out of their comfort zone, because they've had it pretty soft in the last couple. And certainly that's what, talking to Stephen Marsh and Tony Pike, and that's what they're relying on, that it's more genuinely run, and maybe that can be the chink in the armour of Dragon Leap or
I've spoken to a lot of trainers this week like you have, and they're all saying that they're hoping for the same thing. Stephen Marsh, Pikey, they're hoping they go hard. If they go harder, he'll win by more, or the filly will win by more, because here's the thing. You think back to when you were a kid doing athletics. If the slower you go, the bigger the bunch is. When you go hard, the better athletes win. And the best 2 athletes in this race, by a long, long way on disclosed form, are this horse and To Illicit. Now, here's the time they clashed. Aidan mentioned, both outstanding on this occasion, and I think we undersold To Illicit here, because Dragon Leap is about to run out quite wildly and cost himself the race. But while you watch him duck out, also flick your eyes back to Illicit. She was only just hitting top speed, and I think it would have been probably closer than maybe people realised. When she's got out past 1,600 metres, guys, her last 200 metres has been absolutely wicked. So on form, disclosed form, it's hard to pick between the 2, but I think if they go hard in this Derby, these horses will be further in front of Scorps and Sherwood Forest than they were last time.
Isn't it like your 2 favourite boxers who have gone toe-to-toe the last time? One of them's knocked them out and the other one gets another chance in the rematch. And I think this is the clash that we're really looking forward to seeing the rematch of this time round, and I don't think there's much between them.
I think it's almost the classic of everything being polar opposites. Like, one's a filly, one is a gelding. One is by Jimmy Choo, who they almost gave the stallion away. One cost $1,050,000 in Sydney. One's a homebred. You've got one from Matamata, our biggest training centre, along with our other biggest training centre in Cambridge. Everything's up against each other. And then you've got the understated, almost quiet Derby king in Vinnie Colgan up against the man who's with us tonight on Jason Waddell, one of the best talkers in the jockey's room. It's got so many elements of opposites attract. I think it's a wonderful story inside the story.
I think also it's great that they didn't clash in the Waikato Guineas a little bit as well. I mean, a piece of me hope they did, because it maybe would clean this up a little bit more.
Make it a whole lot easier.
But it's good that they didn't, because now we have these 2 horses heading into the race, at the peak of their performances. Dragon Leap on the other side of that, he's had the aid of going back to Ellerslie. He got it right, obviously, in the Auckland Guineas, and then he had that another chance to go there and win it at Ellerslie in the Avondale Guineas.
We remember when obviously it was a spike temperature that just meant that he couldn't take his place in the Waikato Guineas, and we said afterwards, after we watched that just unbelievable performance from Too Illicit, would he have beaten her? You know, that was the question on everyone's lips, and we're saying, I don't know if any horse could have beaten her the way that she performed today. So the cards are on the table. What's going to happen Derby Day, and that's what's in front of us, and that's what's making this such an enthralling derby.
Who's the better horse right now, or Saturday? Who's the better horse?
Well, that's the question. I
think Dragon Leap has the potential to go to Australia and win an Australian Derby. So if I think he's going to win an Australian Derby, I think he's the winner of the New Zealand Derby, and I think that's one angle I'm taking with him. But the other side of the coin is I think Too Illicit's not too far away from the better Australian fillies as well when she goes there. So look, there's nothing between them, and that's why they're $2.40 versus $2.50. To you, Emily, because you're still standing by with Jason Waddell, it's nice to get his final thoughts around the Derby as well before we leave it there and talk about Too Illicit.
Well, we've been around his house. We thought we'd come out here to the office, Jason, where the hard work happens, the sweating, obviously, and we've got, what do you call it, boxing bag? Is that what we'll call it?
Yeah, boxing bag.
I don't do much boxing, so I wouldn't know.
Me and Charlie do a bit of our preparation, and yeah, she keeps me on the job.
If there was one question mark around Dragon Leap, it would be his slightly unprofessional showing a couple of runs ago at Ellerslie. What did you make of that as a jockey, and how can you sort of act to prevent that perhaps on Derby Day?
Yeah, well, obviously it was only his second career start, and he hadn't had too many trials right-handed, and obviously being trained at Matamata, they only work left-handed. He did run out really badly that day, and I was in the race, and I did see him, but look, he's been very professional since. I'll be changing. I'm fortunate enough to be able to use the stick in my left hand. So, look, we'll be carrying it in my right hand because that's just where I feel more comfortable in the race. But as we come into the straight, the first thing I'll do is change it to my left hand, and I'm pretty sure that'll guide him and keep him straight. It's not going to be a real concern, but it'll definitely be something that'll be in the back of my mind. But if I don't see him running out with me having the stick in the left hand, and look, Opie didn't even hit him the other day, and he just changed it over and gave him a tap on the shoulder with the left hand. So look, we'll just put that down to a little bit of an experience. You know, we've all made mistakes in the past, and we'll forgive him for that one and let him do what he does.
You've had the opportunity to go out and ride him in track work. What kind of a feel has he given you? Does he have the attributes that scream out Derby winner? Yeah, he's a very laid-back, very placid horse. He's built strong. Yeah, like I said, I've only ridden the one Derby winner, but he feels like a Derby horse to me. I've only cantered him. I've never done any fast work on him. It's quite unusual not to have ridden him in a race or done any galloping on him. I've cantered him around the track once, and that was all they wanted me to do on him, and it's all I needed for my... Peace of mind?
Peace of mind, yes, we'll call it that. But yeah, no, he gave me a great feel, and I got enough from Opie and talking to James after riding him as well. So he's very professional and laid back, and doesn't seem to faze him too much.
We've spoken a little bit about your previous Derby winner in Vinderdance. Could you draw any comparison between the two, or entirely different horses? I think they're very much entirely different horses. Vinderdance was very dour. He was a horse that I rode to win the Derby in a particular way, where Dragon's Leap seems to be. He's a lot sharper. He seems to have the real X factor, where Vinderdance was just a true grinder and a true warrior. Yeah, Dragon Leap looks like he's a superstar. We've obviously had the opportunity to come to your house this evening, and there's a little girl around here who's been pretty desperate to get on the TV tonight. Hi, Charlie. How are you?
Good.
And tell me, do you think Daddy can win the Derby?
Yes.
How many more sleeps?
2.
Yeah.
Until what?
The biggest race in New Zealand.
That's pretty cool. It's going to be awesome for you to have Charlie supporting you from home, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. Look, the Derby is, we don't call it the Derby around here. We call it the biggest race in New Zealand because it carries the prize money along with the Group 1 status. So we're looking forward to what's the horse we're riding.
And the horse's name is Dragon Leap.
Good girl, darling.
Well, Jason's got Charlie well trained, and as they said, it's the greatest race in New Zealand, and it's certainly building to be that, Brendan, as we get back to you.
Nice work, Emily. That's A great insight there, I must say. It's something we haven't really done before here on Trackside, to actually go to the jockey's home and talk to them and also get the family involved as well. So, I mean, as we all know, Jason is a terrific speaker. He comes across great. He does his form and he's given us an insight a couple of days out from the race.
Well, there's a really interesting point there he made about Opie not hitting the horse. He never took his hands off the reins that day, but what's got me really worried is that Charlie's going to out-tip me on this show. You know, what happens, you know, if I go to Alyssa, I might have to change and go on her side and go Dragon Leap, or I don't know now.
And you'll have an enemy if Alyssa wins, because she won't like you, Charlie.
So you can't win,
just
really.
Getting back to that race where Jason mentioned Opie didn't hit the horse, that was 33.5 the last 600. On a firm track at the end of 2100, they went very slow, yes. But we now know, looking at that, he's got a sub 33 in him, if needs be. We don't know that about any other horse in this race.
All right, well, that's Dragon Leap. That's the Dragon Leap chat. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the filly and To Illicit.
These dark skies washing over, wait for sunrise, wish this black hole would just leave me alone.
He was probably the star worker yesterday, actually. Reggie Wood. His work was super. By all accounts, Matamata horse worked very well yesterday too, so.
Well, Danny was there.
Oh, yeah? Yeah. Oh, well, you can tell me. This is Mom Lula here. To Illicit here. Just count to 1.5.
Yeah.
Trot off.
When did you make the decision, Darby, eventually?
I had it in my mind after she won the Royal Stakes. You know, I was extremely happy with her, but you still don't expect those sort of results in a race like that. So this is her here following these two. As you're getting ready to go 1.5 miles, you're working them at speed over a lot greater distance, and you like your horse to get into a rhythm and breathe nicely, and you know, the good ones can quicken home off that sort of work, and yeah, I thought her work was very solid yesterday morning. It was the perfect sort of work leading into a 1.5 mile, 3-year-old race. She's had a light trot and canter this morning and very free interaction, and she's fed well since. She's dead ready. She won't have to do any more for the rest of the week. The barrier draws will be interesting today. Good draw is a big help. I'd love in the first half dozen, really. Yeah.
Let's talk about Vinny. This is crazy, 25 years ago today.
Since Vinny won his first one, yeah. He's pretty motivated this year. He's been at the track regularly lately, riding around. You know, I think he's got a lot of confidence in her as well. He went away from here after yesterday's work with a big smile on his face. So I think he's in the same camp as me. We've done all we can do, and we're pretty happy with what we've done. Look, I don't know about a 2-horse race. 1.5 miles, don't forget, pulls up some horses and brings others into it. I don't know that we should bill it a 2-horse race.
What's it going to take to beat her?
A very good performance, I would think. She warrants her short price, and you know, you look at her form right through, it's hard to knock her. I think we're right where we need to be.
Great chat from a man who knows how to win the New Zealand Derby, and that being, of course, Roger James, who's in partnership with Robert Wellwood, and he has the right man aboard as well, and Vincent Colgan, who is in search of his 7th New Zealand Derby on the weekend as he rides To Illicit, the $2.50 second favourite in the race. Michael, I'll bring you in. This win last time to the races, blew everyone away. We sort of knew that she was very good, but she's really put herself out there as, after that, the one to beat. She was the favourite for the Derby before Dragon Leap came out and won the Avondale Guinea. So what do we take from this?
We take one thing away more than anything else. 1.4. If she's won this like this, and I'm willing to forget about Travelling Light because I think she was getting shinny and feeling the track, so willing to forget. She wins this in 2.4 for 2,000 metres, and people go, these are poor horses, and this wasn't a stunning performance. She's won in 2.1.4, which is the same time as True Enough and Tiptronic hit the line locked together in the Herbie Dyke. So a 3-year-old filly, as we see overseas with horses like Almond Eye and Enable, going the same time as the good weight for age horses. Phenomenal. She can't go much better. Now, I'm willing to forget about the margins because if Dragon Leaps there, the margin's not so big, but she is already going as fast as she would need to go to be a leading weight for age galloper in this country. She's by a stallion who won the Derby. She's with our best Derby trainer and our best Derby jockey. Again, like Dragon Leap, there's nothing I can find to pot her on apart from the smallest of things. And that's the fact that she couldn't sprint with Jennifer Eccles on Boxing Day. But the subsequent form of Jennifer Eccles sprinting off slowish speeds has been so dynamic, it doesn't look quite so bad now, and she was catching her in the last 100. And again, that's splitting hairs because you're trying to find something to separate the two in the market.
In her last 5 starts, she's only been beaten by one horse. It's a horse who's gone on to win 2 Group 2 races. In the meantime, she's beaten a Group 1 horse and she's beaten Dragon Leap among those other 4 wins. She was outstanding that day, visually and on the clock. Like, look at the third horse home. She's run 12 lengths faster the last 600 the third horse in that race. And then Platinum Road's run 4th and Peloton's in behind. She's a star filly, and I'm excited to see her go around in this.
I tell you, are you concerned by one thing? Barrier 5, it sounds good, but I'm seeing a lot of horses who want to get across this field. And at Barrier 5, and by no means am I thinking Vinny will do the wrong thing, but I can see this being a race where there are a lot of coming across, and she's starting to get pushed a little bit further back or squeezed up. I'm not saying either of these things will happen, but I would actually prefer her out at 8 or 9, where there wasn't that temptation to dig her in the ribs. Otherwise, I think she might end up in the second half of the field.
Yeah, it's as tricky a barrier draw as Dragon Leap, no question.
I agree with that.
Yeah, well, and that's what we've got to try and work out which way we're going to go. It's going to come down to those small 1% things, isn't it, about where the positioning of the horse is going to be. Do you think it's going to come down to the best ride winning the race?
I think it's going to come down to who's following the right horse into the race. You can't lose momentum in these races. That's one thing I learned talking to jockeys over the last couple of years as I've been doing a lot more thoroughbred racing and talking really in depth with people like James McDonald. He said it comes down to momentum. If you lose momentum, you don't win. And that's where Opie's so good. He's not here. They're splitting hairs. I don't know who's going to win the Derby, but my gut instinct is Dragon Leap is going to be out, and I think he's going to be following the right horse because at the moment Jason Waddell is going through a period in his life where he's riding incredibly well. But that's also tipping against the Derby King. I'm going Dragon Leap to beat To Illicit. I could be completely wrong.
That's the thing, like we see that interview that the trackside's been playing over the last few days from Vinnie Colgan speaking to us last year, and that's one thing he's really mindful of focusing on, you know, making sure your horse keeps out of trouble, making sure your momentum's going, making sure you're getting a relaxed, trouble-free run. And he has won this race, an amazing 6 times already. And that's the thing, you know, you come up against Vinnie Colgan and maybe another race and you think, oh, well, maybe Jason's got the edge. But not in this race, because this is Vinnie's own race. He's made it his own, and his record speaks for itself. So.
I tell you what I do like. I like the fact that 12 doesn't sound great, but I like the fact that Dragon Leap is right next to Sherwood Forest. If you want to be barrier 12 in this race, and you can name any horse in the race at 11, you want it to be Sherwood Forest.
Yeah.
He's a big rolling horse. He gives you a big butt to follow. He'll knock anything out of the way he needs to get out of his way because he's a big horse. I see, and he's ridden by Michael Walker, who's another one of the great jockeys in the race. I can see Jason going straight to the back of Sherwood Forest and following it into the race. And as you mentioned earlier, there could be a gap there in that first 6. I didn't like 12 as a draw, but I'd like it a lot more with the big lump next door to him.
Yep. So on form, Michael, which way are you going?
On form, Dragon Leap, because I think he's got a quicker last 600 in him, and I almost feel guilty tipping against the filly because she's been so good.
Aidan, which way do you see it between the two?
I don't know. I really don't know. I don't want to pop the other one.
Jason Waddell's daughter's watching this.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm gonna go to Illicit. She got me with her win the other day. Opie told me that Dragon Leap was ready to win the Derby after he'd ridden the Avondale Guineas. She looks great, untouched in that Avondale Guineas, but she's just something about her.
What about you?
Love her.
What's your Derby tip?
Dragon Leap for me. I just feel as though he's in the right place to win the race. I mean, I'm a little bit like Aidan. It's a flip of the coin, but I can see him tracking the right horse off the back of what I think is going to be fairly genuine tempo. I think it will be. And that will help Sherwood Forest and Scorps give them the opportunity to be a place in the race. But I think ultimately he'll be able to swoop into the race and Waddell will give him the best ride possible to win the race. I think it will be a battle between the two, though. I think To Illicit will be coming at him as well, and I think that's the clash we want to see. But of course, we've got to talk about some other horses very shortly. But I want to get back to Emily Bosson, because we've spoken about form and we've got the emoji like that from Aidan Rodley, and then he went To Illicit. So Emily, as we come to you, how do you see it on type and breeding? How do you select this year's winner on type or breeding?
Well, it's the million-dollar question, BP. How much weight do we put on pedigree compared to type and what we've seen on the racetrack? I think To Illicit, who's here beside me, is probably a case of forget the pedigree and maybe just base it all on type because, gee, she's such a professional. She's got that fantastic attitude and that will to win. Not only that, but she's got the super athletic walk and just great personality and presence about her. From a pedigree perspective, you're probably going to have to look a little bit further back. She's obviously out of a Derby winner, but from what he's produced, they've mainly been sprinters. Her Grand Dam is by Hulling, who produced a Irish Derby winner in Jack Hobbs. And then if you look really far back in her pedigree, you find a fantastic Juddmonte family, which features top-line stayers, including Reams of Verse, and you've also got Midday in there as well. How does that compare to Dragon Leap? That's obviously the million-dollar question. On type, well, there's very little between them. He's an outstanding type, another really athletic horse who's got a fantastic attitude on race day, relaxed and very, very professional when it comes to a big day of racing. And his pedigree is just so rich in staying credentials. He's by Piero, who obviously was more proficient at sort of the shorter distances, but that Piero Redout's Choice Cross has just been a fantastic source of Derby winners. You look back, you've got Lavendi, who was obviously successful in AJC Derby, Regal Power and Action, who took out Western Australian Derbies, and combine that with Furore, who won a Hong Kong Derby. He has all the credentials to be a Derby winner. So I guess it's up to you at home. Do you base it on pedigree or do you base it on type? They're both beautiful types, but on pedigree, I suppose Dragon Leap has the edge.
Nice one, all right. Thank you for that, Emily. That's a great insight there around which way to go, possibly, around pedigree in this year's running of the New Zealand Derby. Well, it's time to talk about some other horses in the race now. We'll step away from Dragon Leap and To Illicit, and as we keep pointing out, there are some horses here that are deserved of their place in the race. And I think one of the most intriguing runners in this year's race is going to be Reggie Wood. Now, this is a horse that has won the last two starts very impressively. I get the feeling he's that sort of 6 months away. He's going to be a horse that could be very good. But what's your impression, Michael, of where he sits in the race on the weekend? How much of a chance is he? Because I do think there's some talent there, but how much of a serious chance is he of winning the race?
I agree with what you say about him being 6 months away, and usually when the Derby is won by a 6 months away type horse and they turn up and win, you go, oh wow, I didn't expect that. It's usually not against two horses as good as he's against this week, and even Sherwood Forest and Scorps, these are very good horses with Group 1 form pre-Christmas. So he's picked a tough Derby to find himself in because there's at least 4 horses above him in the pecking order. He went a very quick time when he won at Taranaki last time out. I'm actually dubious of that time. The rail was out that day and he goes absolutely super, and he's a big immature horse and could have won this a lot easier had he travelled straight. But I still find it hard to believe they've gone 2-1 here for 2,000 metres on this track. As you can see, the rail's out from the inside. If he has gone that quick, that's a hell of a performance. He worked very well on Tuesday morning, according to Roger James, but I think he's very new up against a bunch of horses who are very proven.
Got those Far Lap colours on, isn't he, of Norm Dennis's, who's basically registered in New Zealand because they weren't registered here. Yeah. So if this horse goes to Australia, and he is nominated for the Rosehill Guineas and Australian Derby as well, he'll be able to wear the Far Lap colours over there, even though they're registered in Australia.
That'll cause a stir, won't it?
Yeah, so it's interesting. Just a barrier draw puts me off a little bit, barrier 15, but he's been super impressive in the last couple. He looks like a progressive horse, but you know, he is coming up against a couple of stars and a couple of others in the middle market that might just test him as well. But respect his form and what his potential is as well.
Yeah, and he's one of those horses, I think, if you like him, he's an each-way bet, and if like we've spoken about beforehand, you do get paid out for fourth as a winner, so I'm sure maybe some punters are entertaining that option if he's in that sort of 19s and 4 bracket. All right, well, let's get back to Emily Boston because she's standing by with Robert Wellwood.
Well, Brendan, I could talk to you about pedigree and type all night, but we might as well hear from the connections about what they think. And we're joined by Robert Wellwood here at the stables. And Robert, 3 hot contenders in the race. Let's kick things off with Two Illicit. How has she come through that last run?
Yeah, look, we were very pleased with the way she came through the Waikato Guineas. Look, she thrived all prep, and the Waikato Guineas was no different. You know, she ate up that night, and we pulled her out of the box Sunday morning to trot her up, and she was very bright and well. So, yeah, no, we couldn't be happy with the way she's come through it.
Tell me about her training program. What does that entail from here?
Since the Guineas, she's had 3 weeks through the Derby, so we were able to just give her a nice quiet week, and then from there she sort of built up towards the Derby, including sort of a nice solid hit out Saturday, and then again a nice piece of work Tuesday, which Vinny came in for both of those pieces of work, and he was really pleased with it. So yeah, we've got a happy jockey and a couple of happy trainers.
I just noticed the addition of the tongue tie on Two Illicit. Tell me a little bit about the decision behind that.
Yeah, look, I probably wouldn't read into that too much. She can be quite busy with the tongue and things, and last time out we just added the noseband, and she's worked in the tongue tie at home, and it seems to have the desired effect to just keep her mind on the business a little bit more. So she'll race in that in the Derby, and you know, hopefully it's pulled the right rein.
What about the barrier 5? You must have been pretty chuffed when you saw that.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it certainly just gives you, a bit more option as to where you head from there. But she can race forward and she can sort of relax back. So in that respect, she's pretty easy filly to ride, I think. But yeah, I rang Vinny not long after the barrier draws, and I could almost hear his smile through the phone. So yeah, no, it hopefully just takes a little bit less luck that you need to have.
We mentioned that you've got 3 horses in the race, and one of them is this guy in Reggie Wood, who's pretty keen to be on the camera tonight. And I've heard a little whisper around the Cambridge track that he's been working far above average.
Yeah, he certainly thinks he should be involved, doesn't he? Yeah, look, he's probably taken a little bit more of an unconventional, preparation into the Derby, missing the Guineas races and things, but he's beaten the older horses twice in a maiden and then a 65 in impressive fashion, and every time he heads out to the races he just keeps improving, and I can't see why he can't take another step forward heading to the Derby. So yeah, look, his work's been terrific. He's had a month between his last start and the Derby, which I think really suits this horse, and yeah, we head into the race really happy with him.
You've also got Monlula in the race as well. Tell me a little bit about this one.
Yeah, he's another horse that's just still getting there, but look, his last start he probably was a little bit luckless, but still a solid run, and he's a horse that's probably 6 months away, but I think he's a pretty genuine stayer, and like to think that he'll definitely see out the 2,400.
Something a little bit more fun is the fact that Reggie Wood wears the Far Lap colours, but I understand there's not much behind it, it's just the fact that they are available, is that right?
Yeah, I think the owner and breeder Norm, he sort of needed some colours, and obviously Far Lap's pretty synonymous with racing, and he saw that they were available, so got on board, and I mean, Reggie's trying to make his way there, but I don't know if he's ever going to live up to Far Lap's status, but look, if he can even get a little bit of the way there, we'll be pretty pleased.
Well, I just thought I'm never going to get the opportunity to wear Far Lap's colours, so Robert very kindly got them out of the cupboard. Hold that. Here we go. Far Lap's colours. If I can take the opportunity, I'm going to wear them. Final question for Robert. If you had to pick one of your 3, who's going to win?
Oh, I'd like them to dead heat.
Great answer. That's Robert Wellwood here at Roger James's. 3 contenders in the race, Two Illicit, Reggie Wood, and of course Monlula as well.
Well, thank you, Emily. There will be some history there, if not just with the Phar Lap colours, but getting yourself a triple dead heat as well at the same time. All James and Wellwood runners, but yeah.
I think we'll be looking at Emily's social media to see that photo tweeted very shortly, won't it, me in the Phar Lap colours? Yes.
Yeah, no, that's good stuff. All right, well, let's look at Reggie Wood, also a little bit about Monolula as well. Of course, their star horse will be Too Illicit from the James and Wellwood team. We're going to take a break. And on the other side, we're going to catch up with Andrew Campbell.
She sees him walking in a straight line. That's not really her style. And they all got the same heartbeat, but hers is falling behind.
I used to hitchhike to Auckland when I was a boy, when I was like in 13 and 14 and stayed with my auntie in Papatoe, and I always I used to come up at Christmas for the Derby and the days of Boxing Day and Auckland Cup on New Year's Day, and I was lucky enough to win an Auckland Cup with Sangster, but I've always wanted to win the Derby. I've never wanted to win a Melbourne Cup or the Caulfield Cup. I've always wanted to win the New Zealand Derby.
But they won't get Vladivostok. Vladivostok won the last. Ty Beaton's coming again, so is Scorps on the inside. Scorps, Ty Beaton and rendition. Scorps, Ty Beaton's trying to pick it up. Scorps on the inside though will beat Ty Beaton. Peloton on the inside from Farm Boy is Gaglione. Peloton goes back to back, and that's a brave win.
Andrew, 3 runners in the Vodafone New Zealand Derby. That's some achievement. Are you happy with all 3?
Yeah, I'm really happy. They galloped this morning and Tommy's come over to watch them gallop, and they galloped really well.
Okay, first of all, let's talk Vladivostok. The last up win at Ellerslie was terrific and in good time. How's he come through?
He's come through at flying colours. He galloped this morning really nicely, and providing he get a good track, I think he'll be right in it.
Ty Beaton goes into the race with a really nice last start performance to his credit. How's he come on?
Yeah, he's really well. He galloped probably the best of the lot this morning, and yeah, he's always been set for the Derby, and it's his big day in the sun. You know, it's going to be hard to beat the 2 favourites. They're pretty smart horses, but we're going in there with a very, very well horse.
To win a Derby with a maiden, that'd be some feat too, wouldn't it?
Oh, what? Just to win a Derby full stop would be amazing. So we've got our fingers crossed, and we're happy with the lot, so we can't do any more.
Peloton, who's likely to be a speed influence in the race. How's that horse?
Yeah, he's well. His all of his good races that he's won, he's led and all been handy. So I'm picking either Peloton will be leading or trailing, and same as Vladivostok, and to Beaton, he'll be just where he normally is, where he lands and where he's settled and happy.
We were here yesterday and the horses are all just relaxed. It's like the environment is just amazing. But when you think about it, if you take this sales as an example, how many horses are sold at yearling sales, and here we are, whether we've got 3 $6 shots, we're going to probably have 3 20-to-1 shots in the Derby. But we've still got 3 horses in the Derby out of a small stable. Like it's sort of incredible, really. It's like it's hard to fathom at times, but I have absolutely no doubt. Like we've gone back and bought another, I don't know, 8 at the yearling sales again this year, and I'm adamant I'll be back in next year with one in the Derby because Andrew's just a superstar. Like he's just a freak, you know.
He's a terrific trainer, Andrew Campbell, and deserved of having 3 runners in the race. We've spoken about Peloton and the likelihood of where he's going to be, and he's going to be that speed influence into the race. I do think Tibetan is one of those runners that can run a race, despite being a maiden galloper. I think those runs have merit in what we've seen so far.
Doing some really nice work in behind there as well. And just obviously, Andrew Campbell, it is some feat getting 3 in there. But outside that, guys like Peter Diddham, and, we haven't seen Peter training too many horses. He gets 2 in a Derby, John O'Bennett with a couple, the Jamara team with a couple in there as well. So, but yeah, like you say, Vladivostok and also Tibetan, their last couple of runs have both been okay. They're bubbling underneath the surface. They need a type of Crown Prosecutor career best type run to be winning for mine, but they're in the mix.
They are. I think they're in that next clump. There's the 2 favourites, and then there's what everybody sees as the next line, which is obviously Scorps and Sherwood Forest, and then you're back to them. It's hard to make a case any of them are going to win because you're hoping, if that's going to be the case, that 2 or 4 of those horses are going to underperform. That's a lot of horses to underperform in one space. I think out of the 3 of them, Tibetan's the one most likely to get you into that 4th, but I still can't put him ahead or any further ahead of Reggie Wood.
Yeah, Vladivostok going quicker than Dragon Leap?
I think seven lengths quicker, just over a second and a bit faster, but just the way those 2 races were run, we know Dragon Leap's got something there. So obviously it was a terrific trial. He does need to step up again for mine.
Okay, well, let's move on now to the next runner in the market who has taken some support as well, and that being Scorps. 14's into around $12 was a horse who did win a race like the 3-year-old Salva, and also won the Wellington Stakes, which is the form reference from last year's winner out of the same stable, Adden and Crown Prosecutor.
Yeah, absolutely, and I thought his run last time out was very good, and behind Dragon Leap. He's another horse who probably just needs it run a little bit faster to be a better chance, but his form's been good. Stephen Marsh has given him a great preparation, gave him that silver, then was able to back off him, 2 runs back, and now he'll be at his peak. He's not the worst of chances here, Michael.
We knew back in December he could run 2,400 metres, because if you can run 2,100 metres in December, you can run 2,400 by what's close to March. Very good horse, will be hitting the line hard. Didn't lose anything on Dragon Leap once Dragon Leap out-sprinted him in the Guineas, but I'm worried he doesn't have the rear speed to win this race, and I'm also worried that the horses he beat pre-Christmas are horses who have been usurped by Dragon Leap and 2 Illicit. He beat horses like Tibetan, he beat horses we know he can beat them, so he's clear 3rd pick in the race, but he's yet to show me he can beat one of the top 2.
Well, maybe it's a case when they push the button a little bit earlier in that case. Do they make it a true staying test? And if he is maybe a touch 1 pace, then does he take them out of their comfort zone at the 850 or the 900 metre mark and really start putting the acid on these
It's a hard way to
horses?
win, isn't it, though, because you then become, almost a sacrificial lamb for yourself. You're trying to beat 2 horses and then someone else beats you. I think it's hard enough to win a derby without having to win a derby doing all the work.
One thing Stephen Marsh has said that he really has improved since that run, and he did produce a winner last year. So a little bit of respect around Scorps, especially from a good barrier.
Yeah, and they've got that little gear adjustment which they've always had up the sleeve.
Blinkers go on.
Yeah, so that's something I know that when leading towards the derby, that the visor blinkers will be assistance to be able to just get enough from the horse to be a big chance in the race. And as we saw in that 3-year-old Salva, he covered a lot of extra ground, so we know that he can stay further than the 2,100 you'd imagine. All right, let's move on to Sherwood Forest. This is a horse that I've sort of, since seeing him win at Ruakaka, I thought this is a horse I want to be backing in the derby, because of the way he won that on that occasion. He beat a horse that was regarded as being a pretty decent threat this 3-year-old season in Holy Mongol Emperor, and he's just forever got better though since his Hawke's Bay Guineas run, and then he went down south and he was a stakes winner and he was placed in the 2000 Guineas. So how much of a threat is he, especially with him drawn 11 and the likelihood of going forward and put in the race, ridden by a jockey who knows how to win the derby?
Yeah, Michael Walker winning it with Puccini, a military move as well, and I think he'd be really positive on Sherwood Forest. He came over and rode Ragu for Tony Pike when that horse was 3rd and behind Rangipo as well. Geez, I just like him, he's a big strong horse. He'll be in the right position from a wide gate. I'm sure they'll be positive, Michael, and he's been set for this race and peaking for it too.
I love this run here. Beat Joe's Legacy, who now is obviously an Auckland Cup chance, and beats good older horses and carries a big weight to do it. He's a big strong horse, we all know that. Again, like Scorps, when you look at him here, he doesn't have great leg speed. He's not a horse who seems to accelerate quickly. He grinds more, so yeah, maybe he's going to need a 226, 227 type derby to run that sub 33 out of the other 2 horses' legs. For everybody, I think it's the case of the top 2 and then him and Scorps on that next line. And that's what's so hard to make a case for the horses like a Den Bosch back in the field, because there's so many good horses to get past here who are already proven at Group 1 level. Let's not forget he ran 3rd to Catalyst in a 2000 Guineas.
Yeah, all right, well, let's try and get some selections from your team. Let's get to you, Michael.
It's going to be hard for any of us to pick anything different. I'm going Dragon Leap on top to beat 2 Illicit very, very clearly from Scorps and Sherwood Forest. And I know that's leaving some other very good horses with nowhere to find them in the top 4, but I think there's a whole bunch in behind. But for me, it's a 3-bunch race. The top 2, the next 2, everything else.
Pretty much the same. I've got a circle and a slash to try and avoid splitting them, because I just think they're so even. In the end, I asked for a number. I'm going to put the filly on top. Two Illicit goes on top for me, ahead of Dragon Leap, Sherwood Forest and Scorps. BP for you?
I'm going to go Dragon Leap to beat Two Illicit. I'm going to have a bet on Sherwood Forest. I am going to have a bet on him. I think he's a worthy chance for a top 4 play. I think he's a nice place bet in the race. If there was another horse you wanted to possibly play, it could be that beaten type of runner as well. If you wanted to back something else, I think there are, as we've all mentioned, there's other horses here you could entertain for trifectas and first falls, but it's hard to go past the Dragon Leap, Two Illicit, Scorps, Sherwood Forest, form reference leading into the race. All right, that's the Vodafone New Zealand Derby. The gates will crash open at 5 minutes past 5. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to talk more about the undercut.
I've never seen your kind. You're at 100, ain't too fast, but you at 1,000 just like that. Yeah, so run that back, 'cause you so bad, let's do it.
As they're about to swing in the lowland on the outside, Heart of the Ocean, and Jennifer Eccles went very quickly up to them on the outside, and Jennifer Eccles put 3 or 4 lengths on them here. Have a look at this brilliant little filly go, and down to the line Jennifer Eccles will win the lowland and win it with a leg in the air. Brilliant performance. Loire second, Showfield third. She's just getting better this week, girl. This has been dominant here. So dominant. Boy, she just got right away. I'm not sure that Jason could even believe that he's had a second or third peep there. They just couldn't get anywhere near her, and he's hardly asked her to extend. She's so genuine and willing and outstanding. What a brilliant win here in the lowland, Bevan.
Well, she got to the corner and there was only one horse in it. She was just under double wrap.
Well, I'm thinking Jason Waite, but that's why you don't need to talk to Jason, because he's so good at making those calls, and the cheeky way he eased down late was superb.
I couldn't hold her any longer coming to the 600. I was getting up on the heels, and she's a horse that's got a short turn of foot. Well, we thought she did. But, well, I don't know if I've ridden too many fillies that can quicken up the way she does. So she's an incredible filly. I appreciate the ride from the owners and Sean Ritchie, and, geez, I can't wait for the Oaks.
What a win that was from Jennifer Eccles. I think the whole country is in love with Jennifer Eccles. That is for sure. That hashtag's certainly getting out there now at the moment with Who Loves Jennifer Eccles. $1.80 now for this horse to win the New Zealand Oaks. And really off the back of that, I mean, it's going to be pretty hard to beat it now, isn't it?
We can't back it at $1.80, but you're right, she could just sit midfield and go straight past most of them. Of course, Two Illicit's not going to the Oaks, so take her out of play there, and it's hard to make a case for the rest of these. But we see plenty of these Aiden, 7Cs, Carolina, Bergamot going around the Sunline Vase on Saturday. But the filly of the year all but over, because Loire would need to win the Oaks and Jennifer Eccles run unplaced for Loire to take back the lead and therefore the title and the filly of the year.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to have to be a special performance on Saturday from these horses to be able to suggest that they are even a chance in the Oaks.
Yeah, or something to go wrong with Two Illicit, that she misses her plane and ends up having to go to Trentham instead.
And we're all on the $10. No, that's not happening. No. I mean, all right, well, let's talk about the race on the weekend. It, of course, is the McKee family Sunline Vase, where we do see Bergamot at the top of the book at $3.40, 7Cs at $5, who won the Oaks Prelude and was very big in winning it at a huge price. And we've got $7.50 around Carolina, who's had that early support from $9 off the back of a fifth in the Avondale Guineas behind Dragon Leap and only been beaten around 4.5 lengths. Megan $9.50, Amal Rose at $9.50. What happens early here, Adrian?
I think Amal Rose goes forward. She's a granddaughter of Bramble Rose, who won a New Zealand Oaks, but Roger James probably going to sway away from that. I think she can be the dominant force here. Bergamot, I think they'll be positive, just like they were in the Royal Stakes, and the stablemate Darcy Q to go forward as well. I don't think there's a great deal of speed here. We didn't see a great deal of speed in that Oaks Prelude at New Plymouth last time out that 7Cs won, but she was still able to overcome that. So Bergamot just got too far back on the inside, and it just wasn't the place to be. In the end, Amal Rose has done all the donkey work and then only just gone down. But out wide, 7Cs was pretty impressive.
Certainly was, yeah. They were swamping, and Amal Rose has kicked on, but 7Cs victorious here, and she's going to have to do more again, Michael, off the back of this and be bigger to be a serious chance in the Oaks? Is she a chance of winning this race, though?
The tempo bothered me for this race. I thought if she did settle back, it's going to be hard to storm down the outside to beat these type of horses. I thought Bergamot's going to be in the right place. I like Matt riding the horse nice and handy to the speed. Here's Carolino up against the boys last time. You've seen this video a couple of times. She's in the gold colours and behind. Understandable she got out sprinted here, but she does tend to one bat a bit. She does tend to get, she stays handy, which is an advantage, but she does one bat. Still, they are one batting here at 33.
It did favour those on speed. And look at the stablemate there, Communique, back in the field in the other Hickman colours. Got to the line okay and behind them as well. Probably needs to step up. It's just interesting the correlation between those two form lines. Bergamot was obviously a little bit unlucky. He was just in the wrong place. You couldn't be back on the inside at New Plymouth that day and sort of come wide.
What's your top pick?
For mine, I thought Stephen Steeves was still going to be the horse to beat. The other interesting runner is Pineapple Girl, who I thought was really good and behind them in the Alice Felice Classic last time out. So she seems to be a horse who is improving at the right time.
You almost said London.
You nearly did, eh?
You almost said Ponce.
And we nearly got me there. Who'd you go for?
Flip of the coin, me. 7 Seas Bergamot. I'll be honest, I love the race, but I'm not going to bet in it.
A bit of Communique, actually.
Yeah, I don't mind Communique as well. And once
way.
again, Michael Walker's picked up that ride as well.
He has, yeah. Great to see Michael back in the country, and he rides that, of course, in Sherwood Forest in the Derby. Let's move on to race number 8. This is the Haunui Farm King's Plate. It is a race at Group 3 level, and it's not just the Derby that have the top 4 pay it as well, but we'll have from the McKee family Sunline Vase through to the Derby races 6, 7, 8 and 9, an opportunity to get paid out on the top 4. $6 around She's All Mine. You've got Spring Heat at $5, who was the horse that ran that very good race in the Group 1 Telegraph when last presented to the races. There's been some money for It's Destiny's Child because the horse won the Concord when last presented. Bit happening up front here.
Yeah, and It's Destiny's Child and Santa Catarina Arena both dropped 5 kilograms into this, coming in beautifully at the weight. A lot of speed. Molto Veloce Rijuara, who led throughout last time. City Visitor, Rock and Affair. Then you've got likes of Speedy Media and She's All Mine, who was just a little bit tardily away last time out and probably would have preferred to be in front. So I thought there was a heap of speed here, and it might just help those horses who get back in the field. But this is quite the field for the King's Plate. It's a really strong race.
I think if this tempo is going to be there, a high pressure 1200 metre race plays right into the hands of Spring Heat, as we saw here. Michael, when she was able to sprint off what was happening up front, Avantage and Enzo's lad, and she runs and makes her own, obviously, room down the straight here. Does Craig Grills to finish into 3rd.
Got a great chance. I'm just a little bit concerned for both her and my other favourite, Swooper, and Pretty to See that the track might be a bit hard. Spoke to Lance O'Sullivan at length tonight about Dragon Leap, and he said we're confident with her track work, Spring Heat, and she can usually get away with a run on a firmish track, but it was very firm there. But yeah, I'm just a bit worried for both her and Pretty to See, who I love. I totally agree with Aidan. I reckon they'll burn, and it'll be a swooper, whether it's a Damas or a Spring Heat or a Pretty to See. But again, the track just bothers me a touch with all 3 of them.
This was the winning of the race here. We Resoir and Spratt, they were keen out of the barriers. They got across their main danger in the race, and She's All Mine, who finishes into the placing. And you've also got Short Fuse, who was able to finish into 2nd position in this race.
Yeah, She's On Mine just had no luck, was pocketed and just didn't get clear at the right time. But take nothing away from Richoir. It was a good performance leading throughout. Obviously, this being a set weights and penalty races is key to this, I think. It'll be interesting to just see how Spring Heat, it's a precursor to the Derby in those same Hermitage colours as well, so it could work out. And the other thing about this race is the Stephen Marsh influence. 4 in the race, including those key chances of the likes of Santa Catarina. If Evelina had drawn a barrier, I would have been really keen on her.
Well, you were keener in the Telegraph. Yeah.
I like her, and she's sizzled home. She's run sub 32 in that last 600 of the Telegraph, so
railway run was top, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
I think it could be a race where being one spot too far back and you can't win. Look, if you're Evelina and Santa Catarina's in front of you or vice versa, and it takes off at the speed these horses go, it's going to be really hard to come over the top of them. But I do agree, I think they'll go awfully quick here. Some of these sprinters, they're quite temperamental. They can get a bit funny towards the back end of the season. It doesn't take a lot to make them go over the top. So I think it's very much going to be a race of where they're sitting at the 600 and the tempo of that first 600 dictating. As I just said, this one thing to be careful. About 8 metres off there when you're coming wide, it's going to be really hard to swoop because a sprinter needs to come wider earlier to get its head of steam up, and around that bend, a little bit wider around it, is definitely a disadvantage to being up against the inside 4 or 5 horses.
I had Spring Heat as a bank bet here, so really keen on her. I think she produces really well for this race.
All right, let's move on now to race number 7. It is the Mufasa Fast Track Stakes. And this is at listed level. We see Aretha at $13 who returns to the races. Of course, a 2-time Group 1 placed horse as a 2-year-old. Run to Perfection at $3.10. Ended up catching a bit of windburn from Catalyst when last presented to the races. Has to be good at $5. $4.20 from Star of Bombay, who is also fresh up and comes off the back of a trial most recently, but did run third to Dragon Leap in the Auckland Guineas. Show of Roses Aiden is a horse who does like to put herself in a forward position. She's drawn from barrier number 7, and Aretha. Yeah,
you forgive her for that Mr. Tiz run last time out. Her form's very, very good as well. I think in behind the likes of Jennifer Eccles and Tua Illicit when running third a couple of starts back. Aretha goes forward with her. You've got Madam Haas, Star of Bombay to get positions. Just tricky barrier draws there for Woodcape Lass and Run to Perfection. But Run to Perfection's form's been superb. Only once out of the top 3, and that was running 4th to Catalyst in the 2000 Guineas. Here's a horse who's going really well. Second quickest last 600 of this race up against a superstar in Catalyst. So it's not a bad form line, Michael.
And I like the fact it's 1,300. I think 1,200's at the really pointy end for him. So here he is at 1,200, and obviously second to Catalyst, but also beating home Bavella, who's a very good filly and would probably start favourite in this race if you pitted her in his slot. So the extra 100 metres I think suits him. Of course he raced in the Guineas down south and ran 4th. I just think he'll be too strong for a lot of the girls here. I think he'll come over the top of them, and I think there's enough speed here to set it up for him. So he's my top pick in the race, and quite clearly Run to Perfection, even though I do think he's probably going to be a better 1,400 to 1,600.
Yeah, you forgive Show of Roses though, she's in this race.
Yep, Star of Bombay, this is the placing in the Auckland Guineas to Dragon Leap.
Yeah, and was it Rio Dini who runs second as well, beats home Sherwood Forest who runs 4th in this race. She's a high class, promising filly. I've got to have her in 4, I just can't get her on the top line of my bets, but she looks good.
I really like her, and this is excellent form, but I wasn't taken by her trial at Teteco. She sat there and she looked like she was going to come on a bit, and often in those sprinting trials they do it under their own steam. I wasn't taken by her trial, I don't think it was great. Has to be good. I spoke to Roger James about her tonight, and he said, look, we've sharpened her up enough from this, which again is high class form, the Karaka Classic.
Yeah.
But he said, look, it's still pointy for her. The 1,300's probably as quick as she's going to need it. So she is coming back from 16 to 13 for this. And he wasn't booming with confidence about her, but he did say she is definitely our better chance over Madam Haas because of her manners.
Yeah, Harlech probably wasn't at his best, but she still beat him home by 3 lengths, and he's been a Group 1 performer through the season. So it's a really good race. I landed on Run to Perfection in the end. Despite the wide barrier draw, I think they can get a posse. Just love his form lines coming in. Who did you have on top?
I had him the same. What did you like?
Yeah, it's pretty hard to go past him. I think
$3 is pretty fair.
Well, I think it's a great price. I mean, I spoke to Jason Waddell. He thought he was really travelling on the bend, and he was. Just that he came up against a horse who's rather good, and that being Catalyst. So, yeah, I think he's a nice bet in race number 7, the 1,300 metre Mufasa Fast Track Insurance Stakes. We're going to go to Wingatui now because there is a stakes race on Derby Day out of Wingatui, and we do have a field here where I think there's a fair bit of interest around this feature race. The weather and track conditions there at the moment, it's a dead fall. Running Rail is in the true position, and the weather is good there at the moment, leading into
return of Patrick Aaron to New Zealand racing as well. Group 1 Metropolitan winner, and back over 1,200 metres. Probably too sharp, but great to have him back in the country.
Yeah, heck yeah. Oh, yeah, I was really taken back. I saw your tweet about that. What are they thinking with him coming
up? I don't know, just build him up, I guess. He sort of got to a sort of his spot in Australia. The hardest thing will be placing him because he's got those big weights. But
well, it's good news for everybody else in the South Island. Yeah. It means he'll go to the top of them, so he's the 60 or the 62.
He'll sort of Canterbury Gold Cup, those type of weight for age races. They'll be this as
also, we see the South Islanders jump on the bus and come to Trentham all the time and do a good job. Why can't he come to a Hawke's Bay Cup at the back end of April? Just getting, I was almost going to make my bet of the week at Wingatui, then people would have said, you're a pickle, because there's too much other good racing in the country. I think Trifolium will turn up and win this race. She's been $3.50 to $2.70. Really good last start. Chris Johnson jumps on. She's always had ability. She sort of lost her way over this summer.
They let you on early.
I'm not sure. No, I didn't find this quickly enough, Aidan. I can't get on till Saturdays because they restrict me. But I just love her in this race. Don't get me wrong, I do like Live Drama. I think it's a good horse in its last win. Greg O'Connor said to me the last start, he said, this is a really good horse, Live Drama. But Trifolium I'm love with for this race.
Trifolium beat Coolside Mav last time out, and Coolside Mav was terrific at Hastings yesterday. Got back to his best form. She gets into a lovely spot for mine in the trail. Miss Federer, the likely leader here, with Fairway Flight pressing forward. Life Drama's got a tricky barrier draw. All About Magic can take a spot up here. As I thought, just doesn't have any early speed, but looks to be a horse who'll get into the race. And the same goes with Bronte Beach, who's been running really well, but another sort of wide barrier draw, I think, dictates speed. Yeah, Syracuse, I wish this horse had got a barrier because she's bringing some sort of form.
Here's the last start win, and this wasn't as impressive as what she was doing beforehand. She was stuck very wide in a good race at Trentham and did a super job. She was just better than the horses are behind her here, and Coolside Mav, as you said, has gone really good since. So I was super impressed by that, but I was actually more impressed by what I saw before. My only concern was it's actually really hard to get from the CD to Dunedin. There's no flight, obviously. So you've got to go down the road, and it's summer and it's a long time, and it's an annoying trip for a horse. That's my only concern. I think on form, she's close to a good thing.
I did like this trial, Syracuse. Now, this is the trial which obviously is Bostonian. She's on Mine Melody Bell. Aretha are in front of this horse, and of course she's just a one-race winner, and she ran fourth behind Scorps in the Wellington Stakes, and that's got to be good form for where this horse is tracking. Very good late through the line here. This is the best part.
Just what you want to see, and she hasn't been asked at all, and she's doing that all on her own steam. She's a 3-year-old filly with a lot of upside. Just, you know, obviously you take a horse down there, you hope you get a barrier draw. The 13 is just a really niggly draw.
Here's Live Drama beating Miss Federer, Michael.
Yeah, this was the race I told you that Greg rang me beforehand and said, look out for this Live Drama. I think it can beat Miss Federer. It's really improving all the time. Good in one of the Guineas races down there. We know Miss Federer is very slippery, and it looked her in the eye and went straight past her, so can clearly win this week. But again, barrier draws, difficult, and secondly, the way Trifolium's racing at the moment, I would put her ahead of Miss Federer, so you're going to ask this horse to run past a better horse than the horse that ran past last
Miss Federer does come in a kilogram better at the weights, but the last two meetings, Live Drama has had her measure, so there's that to and fro as well about it.
All right, so you're obviously Trifolium.
It's actually my bet of the day.
Yeah, I like Trifolium as well.
Yeah, I'm with Trifolium. I'm going to have a little saver on Syracuse just in case she does get some type of run that will give her the opportunity to close, because I think the trial was good enough in what she's done so far in the race day performances from that particular run-up. All right, we're going to take a break here on the first call, brought to you by Kamata Park. It is our Derby special, but of course there's a fair bit happening out of Australia. The Australian Guineas is on the weekend. Catalyst lines up, and after this break we're going to catch up with trainer Clayton Chipperfield. Yeah, it's great to be able to have this opportunity now to have Clayton Chipperfield joining us. And Clayton, well, a very good evening / afternoon maybe there out of Mornington. We're getting close to the Australian Guineas. How's the preparation gone since that first up run?
Yeah, good afternoon. Couldn't be happy with him. He pulled up super from that run, and we had Damien Lane out here again yesterday to give him another gallop, and he was very happy and said he's definitely improved since before the Hayes.
And that was always going to be the key, wasn't it, Clayton? There was going to be the turn in the screws to have him, in a good position after his arriving in Australia. The CS Hayes run, it was always going to bring him on for this weekend.
He's all fuzzy. Sorry, just repeat the question.
That's right, Clayton. I was just saying there, that first run in the CS Hayes was always going to bring the horse on. You were going to have the turn of the screws to be able to say that he's going to be bang on for the weekend over 1,600 metres.
Yeah, exactly. We always knew we were going to pull up better after that race and needed it. But we want him to peak for the Guineas, and we're pretty confident we've done that. Just the way he raced in Hayes, thought maybe he might leave a bit of feed, but he's done super since.
The barrier draw, Clayton, you're drawn in barrier number 4. It means you've got a chance to be able to take a spot just off Alligator Blood. Is that how you see it? What have you spoken about in terms of tactically and how this race could pan out for you?
well, having the barrier 4, that's obviously going to help us try and get the 1-1, which is exactly where we want to sit. We have heard over here that Alligator Blood's connections don't really want to lead again, so he could end up inside us if something goes forward from the outside, because he's obviously drawn inside us. So if we can box him in there and hold him up for as long as we can, that'll be an advantage to us.
Clayton, we're watching a replay of the CS Hayes. Now, I know you have tremendous respect for Alligator Blood, but you also believed to your eye there wasn't much more improvement in him. How much more improvement, lengthwise, do you think there is in Catalyst?
Yeah, it's right. I had a good look at Alligator Blood at Flemington, and he was hard fit. He was primed. There wasn't not a lot of meat left on the ridge there. So, and that has been also commented from the trainer since that race. He was 97% there for the hay, so there wasn't much improvement in him. Our boy's definitely improved. I came over Friday night and gave him a easy gallop on Saturday morning, and he just did it so easy. He's definitely improved and strengthened up, and to have Damien Lane gallop him again yesterday after 2 weeks going into the Hayes to get his comments about the improvement in him as well was super for the confidence.
Clayton, you told me yesterday you think that Alabama Express could actually be the horse to beat.
Yeah, I do believe that. A 3-year-old beating open weight for age horses, 3 wide, no cover, doing it tough, and to win like he did, he's got to be a big player in this guinea, coming back to his own age group.
Clayton, how's the experience been for you in Australia? Obviously, the horse has created a bit of a fanfare here, and it seems to be looking like from afar that's been the case in Australia as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had nothing but media calls and cameras, and it's been really, really good. They've made this into a massive race, but they've treated us really well over here, and everyone's willing to help whenever they can, and it's been great. We've been made to feel welcome, but I love it over here. I'm happy to stay.
And you're coping with it all right, no doubt. You just roll up for the next interview.
Sorry, just repeat that.
You're coping okay with all the media attention yourself, Clayton, as well? I know you're a very down-to-earth, sort of quiet bloke, but you're coping with it okay?
Yeah, no problems. Yeah, I don't mind it. I come into this game hoping to get a horse like this, and I was lucky enough to get in this early, so I'm enjoying all the attention and living it up while we can, because it won't last forever. But a few sleepless nights overthinking things, because I have only brought one horse over here, and I'm trying to help out Scotty as much as I can to fill my day in. But yeah, there's a lot of time spent in doing very little, so the brain does tend to tick over a bit.
All right, Clayton, well, I know you've got a lot of people on this side of the Tasman as well that'll be here cheering him on in terms of close connections to the horse, but I think the whole country itself in terms of keen on the racing. I know there's been some coverage on our main media streams as well with Catalyst. Let's hope he can do the business in the Australian Guineas. All the best to your team coming up on Saturday, mate.
Cheers, thank you very much, and thanks for the support, everyone in New Zealand. It's been great.
Nice one, thank you for that. That's Clayton Chipperfield, and yeah, it really is a fanfare moment. And we've also got another horse in Australia that I know has created that as well, and of course that is Te Akau Shark. And we're going to talk more about that particular runner and try and get a bit of a breakdown around these Australian Group 1s where there's a lot of Kiwi interest, because we're going to bring in David Gately now into the conversation. Gator, thanks for joining us here on the TFC. Well, first of all, we've just been talking about Catalyst and also Alligator Blood. What's your take on the Australian Guineas coming up this weekend?
Yeah, look, it was obviously a fantastic contest, the lead-up race. Look, I think it's advantage Catalyst this time. I was actually on him and tipped him to the world there in the Hay Stakes, but he just missed, and he had to give a kilo away, as you well know. And being second up, Alligator Blood, he's quite deep into a campaign. He's been going sort of 9 months straight almost, so it sort of backs up what Clayton's referencing about the way he appears. His trainer says, look, it's closer to the end than the finish, this prep. I do think it's advantage Catalyst out to 1,600 as well. So there's a number of factors that will tell me, as an analyst, I think he can turn the tables on the Gator, but mouth-watering contest.
How do you rate Alabama Express? I mean, we've heard from Clayton Chipperfield believing that is the horse that potentially could be the one to beat.
Well, he's the horse that's still on that upward spiral as well, and I'm assuming that's the same. I'm thinking that's the same with a horse like Catalyst. Even Alligator Blood's improving every time he runs on raw figures. Alabama Express was exceptional here, winning. He covered a bit of ground. He took some winding up, so I don't think he'll have any issue with 1600. He just took some time to build his momentum and his speed, but then he really surged past some pretty handy older horses. And I think the key to this horse is if he runs to the exact same mark, he probably falls a length or so short of Catalyst, but he's a horse that's improving every time he runs. His rating's going up every time, so he could step to 1600, improve a length or two, and all of a sudden he's right in the picture.
Gator, jumping a couple of weeks forward, who do you think's the better New Zealand winning chance in the All-Star Mile, Catalyst or Melody Bell?
Look, I've been a big fan of this 3-year-old crop for a long time in Australia, and Catalyst has just added another dimension to it. I don't have any fear with these 3-year-olds against these older horses. Obviously, everyone's a big Melody Bell fan in Australia after what she did Cup Week, so with 2 outstanding individual runs and 9 Group 1s or 10 Group 1s. But I think he's got some X factor about him. He's got something a bit special, I think, and I'm not sure which way I'll go yet, but I'll certainly be tipping a 3-year-old, I'd imagine, in the All-Star Mile, if that does answer your question.
Off to Sydney, we head on Saturday for Randwick, Gator, and we have, of course, Te Akau Shark, who we all love, and everybody seems to love him over your way as well. Are you put off by the barrier draw this weekend?
No. What's been happening a bit at Randwick, it was a bit sort of on pace-ish last time they raced here, but they had a wet track that day, and you had to sort of be only in a couple of lanes. Now with the weather finding up and the rail position going back to the true, it was more a run-ons track here with those dimensions and a firm track. So I think it might actually be an advantage to draw 13 rather than 1. So there's just not mad speed. I'd love another natural leader in the race for him, but I think he'd still get over the top of them. To answer your question, I'm certainly not put off by the barrier. I think he's a great winning hope and clear top pick for me in a terrific Group 1.
We know how good he is, but we also have Probabeel in Sydney, and she might have found herself on one of the tougher 3-year-old fillies races we've seen for years. What do you make of her at over 1600, but against what appears to be a vintage crop, Gator?
Yeah, look, I think the little query for mine, and I shuffled her down to, I think, 3rd or 4th pick from memory, is just coming back that 200 metres for her. Look, obviously, the way she zoomed home and crossed the line with Fun Star, who's favourite in the race, automatically tells you she's well and truly good enough. That was an exceptional run that day. And then, of course, she was brought undone. A slow speed Fun Star led and kicked away from her in the Flight Stakes over 1600. But her win last time was terrific. She seems to have come on again from last prep. It's not just a hot 3-year-old year for the males. These fillies are exceptional as well. Flit is a star. Fun Star could be anything. And, of course, probably sort of, crossed the line with Fun Star last prep. So it's easy to tie her in. The little knock, just coming back in trip is the little query I had.
Okay, Gator, we've got some really good horses here at the moment, but we went through a patch the last 5 years where outside our Derby and Oaks horses, we weren't getting a lot of love in Australia, or a lot of respect, to be honest, probably since Turn Me Loose. Have people like yourself and some of the Australian form judges who have to do this every day, have you had to start paying more attention to New Zealand form because it appears our crop of 3-year-olds through to weight for age horses have become more serious contenders?
Well, I mean, you're only judged by your actions, aren't you? I mean, talk is almost useless. What the horses are doing is they're performing, and they're performing on the clock. The form around them is exceptional. I mean, you know better than I. Sharky Shark just looked like Farlap first up there, and he beat a horse coming off a Group 1 win. The 3rd horse was coming off a Group 2 win. The 4th horse, I think, came out and won a Group 1. So, there was some knock here. Some analysts were saying, it's just New Zealand, don't worry about it. But it was an outstanding win, and the form's there. So to answer your question, I think the horses themselves are putting their hand up. It's sort of out of our control almost. You can't help but respect what they're doing, A, on the track, to the eye, visually, and B, on the clock. 32s and that, and the Shark won 21-7 first up. I'm a big fan. I gave the Shark a huge chance in the Cox Plate even. So I'm a big fan of these, all 4 of them, in fact, with Probabeel and Melody Bell.
All right, Gator, look, we've got a top race coming up here on the weekend, of course, in the New Zealand Derby, and I'm sure this is a race as well heading towards the autumn in Sydney as well, that I'm sure some Australians will be watching. We've got Dragon Leap and Tua Licit, who are right at the top of the market. They're going to be looking towards coming to races like the Australian Derby and the Australian Oaks, so I'm sure the Aussies will be watching that as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, some of us are silly, but we're not silly enough to ignore the New Zealand 3-year-old staying form over the last couple of years, especially into the Sydney Carnival, so into the championships at Randwick. So I'll be setting the recorder for this weekend, that's for sure.
Well, looking right across both states now, Gator, is there one that you're really keen on, you can steer the punters into for the weekend?
Well, this may come as thinking that I've sort of made this up, but my two best bets on the weekend one at Flemington is Catalyst, and one in Sydney is Te Akau Shark. So I think they'll both win. I think they're both superstars, and can't wait to see them. Outside of those, if you're looking for one at a bit of value, there's a horse at Flemington race 6, number 7, called Gift of Power. She's come up double-figure odds, and I think she can run a great race fresh for your viewers.
All right, nice one, Gator. Loving your work as always out of Australia, and thanks for joining us here this evening.
Been a pleasure, guys.
Nice work. Well,
Jeez, he loves the Kiwis.
We didn't prompt that, but that's...
Well, Gift of Power, Te Akau Shark and Catalyst. Jeez.
I've been doing radio in Melbourne for like 25 years. A lot of it on harness racing, but a lot on galloping too, just cross-coding it. And I've never had more consistent questions about New Zealand horses, you know, who they see as being players. The respect levels here are going back to 30 years ago with the Kiwi type horses in the Melbourne Cups. And it's always been there for those Baker Forsman type Derby Oaks horses. And then Brisbane, because the Brisbane Carnival, we picked up the dregs at the end there. But for what Bostonian did there and Te Akau Shark and Melody Bell and Catalyst now, there's that much respect from them, people ringing all the time and asking about them. And that's got to be good for the sales industry. That's really important for our industry at Karaka coming up. So that's why I asked Gator about it. Those guys don't care about personalities. They don't care about anything but numbers, facts, figures, and what wins and loses. And I think even the hard-assed real gamblers and analysts over there now are paying more attention to our racing. So that's got to be good.
Yeah, because so often I think going into that Sydney Carnival, the 3-year-olds still went under the radar, didn't they? You know, the Baker Forsman horses still went under the... I remember, like, for instance, John Snow, you know, when he went there, you know, it was like, oh, yeah, he did go a good race in the Derby. Then he came out and he was able to be a winner there. So, yeah, we understand the respect factor. Maybe it's sort of going back to the 80s when we were, you know, we were dominant and we were taking horses to Australia.
Even last year when we were just bubbling under the surface, we still saw, you know, the chosen one go over, pick up a Frank Packer plate, run a terrific fourth in an Australian Derby, and then we saw, you know, Rondinelle and Glory Days perform in the Sydney Cup. Bostonian's already over there, so we're looking forward to seeing him perform, and obviously we've got a host of horses who will be getting through Auckland Cup week and then heading over as well.
I reckon it comes down to a couple of really key factors. They're just breeding for one thing now. That's all they do. And that's fine. We can say you can have everything under 1,600 or under 1,400. You can have it, do what you want. Also, they're retiring all their good horses. The Autumn Sun should have been in the Cox Plate this year, but when you get 40 million coming in for them, you retire them, and you retire them again and again and again. It's very hard to make a domestic stallion in New Zealand and therefore retire our horses. So we're getting more often horses who can stick around and race on, whereas they are now retiring anything. You go back Flying Artie, all these horses, they come up and they're superstars and bang, they're gone. Yes, 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 goodbye. So that's the difference. And that's what you're seeing now. They're creating a gap where they're buying European stayers who can win at 2,000 up to 3,2. They've got all these horses they're breeding by Snitzel and I'm Invincible, and we're filling that gap in the middle, and we're filling it pretty darn well.
All right, well, that's a breakdown of what's happening on both sides of the Tasman. Great to be able to get that insight from Clayton Chipperfield around Catalyst, and of course Gator as well, coming through with some selections around the Australian Guineas and also out of Sydney, where he's liking the Shark, and also Catalyst as a couple of nice bets. Okay, we're going to take a break here on the Derby Preview Show, and on the other side, if you haven't seen it on social media, look out for this next piece with Andrew Scott.
Until you've seen this trash can dream come true, you stand at the edge while people run you through, and And I thank the Lord, there's people out there like you. I thank the Lord, there's people out there like you. While Mona Lisas and Mad Hatters, sons of bankers, sons of lawyers, turn around and say good morning to the night. For unless they see the sky, but they can't, and that is why they know not if it's dark outside or light. This Broadway's got, it's got a lot of songs to sing. If I knew the tune, I might join in. I thank the Lord, while Mona Lisas and Mad Hatters, sons of bankers, sons of lawyers.
Depends what hour of the morning is.
Hey, they put this microphone on me, so no swearing, eh?
No swearing.
Okay.
Oh, fuck
All good? Good. Champion.
Lead.
Lead at all costs, yeah, absolutely.
No, I've got the right idea. Low revs.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
Look, there's only three chances. There's Scorps, the horse of Tony Pikes, and the one that leads on. Those are the only three chances. I think Sean Ritchie's horse probably lead.
Okay.
Yeah, yes.
Hopefully, anyway. I
It's
don't know
one
if
of
it's
the
going
two
to be
least
a strong speed, but
Okay. Oh, look, the main thing is a nice day out and he learns to settle and see if he quickens and hopefully he stays.
Yeah. It's bred to stay. You never know till you try.
Just obviously be mindful up the straighties. You know, you rode him the other day, he's getting better in that respect. But
See, when James rode him the other day, sort of just come up along the other was to get a lead pass almost, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just watch him, you know, this stick in the right hand, you might have to switch.
I'll ride the first half of my right hand. I hate jumping out
I'm the
with
same.
it.
I'm the same. Yeah.
Okay.
You don't feel the same.
Okay. That's
But
cool.
you see, that's the number 2 up there.
Yeah.
It's quite easy pony, you know.
Yeah, he is, really is.
Tight.
Good luck, Lance.
Yeah, you too.
Good luck, mate. All the best, Alan. Yeah, he looks well forward, eh? You see him walking around there, he's got good lines. I generally watch all of our horses down the public stand, just away from everyone else. Drives my wife mad, but it's just a lucky spot where we've got to go. I'll sit up here with all my friends. You wouldn't have thought that he's had sort of 6 weeks between his runs, the way he's paraded, like he's paraded very, very calm. Always wonder when we bring them to the races whether you've done enough work with these big gaps between runs, but he's just such a natural, calm, staying horse.
Stand by for the start. Set. Gates open, they're off, and the Jamison Park Avondale Guineas.
Jump well.
One of the first away was James Barry.
That's good, they're rattling along a bit.
Favourite Dragon Leapers right there as well. Going ahead of it is Scorps to be
That's good, that's good, that's good, that's good.
for the inside Dragon Leapers are working.
He's got off the fence, that's great too. Beautiful. Here we go.
Straight to the outside, he's out 5
Come on, mate.
and about to let down.
Come on, buddy. Quicken up, mate.
350 Scorps.
Come on. Come on, Dragon Leap. Come on, Dragon Leap. Come on, buddy. Come on, Dragon Leap. Oh, look at that. He's just a superstar. Run straight, run straight. Come on, buddy. Oh, look at that. What a horse. That is pretty cool. 14 more sleeps now, so whilst we won't get heaps of sleep, but it'll be still a long fortnight. Boss, can I just whip through? That's my horse. Well done, Opes. Hey, it's good, eh?
Just relaxed, beautiful.
Oh, wow.
Beautiful.
Quick and well. Yeah, hard to beat. Yeah. Good on you, mate. Hey, well done, Alan. Good on you, girl. How was he going past the winning post, all right? Sweet. It's all right.
He just rolled out of it. I think I'm going to...
I thought he was going to have a look. Oh, yeah, wasn't it great? God, he gave him a ride.
Derby Day, this fella?
I don't know. Boom, boom, boom. That was really good, eh?
Soft run, eh?
Yeah, he settled well, quick and well.
Yeah, thank you,
Oh,
thank you.
hey.
Keep doing this, don't we?
Hey, thanks for your sponsorship.
Well done, mate.
Cheers, big man. Thank you. He's pretty fit too, eh? Like he's
Going up.
not blowing hard. Not blowing hard. He's not blowing up over the back much.
I think he didn't have a hard one on.
No. God, he's a horse.
Thanks, Dave.
Got brains, eh? Just settles.
He'll run a good mile and a half, eh?
Yeah.
Look, without a doubt, I think that's one of the best things we've done on the channel there, Michael. That was, I just loved it. I loved every bit of that.
I couldn't do it.
You know?
I'd swear. I would. During a race, if I had a horse
bleeps,
racing to that, I would unfortunately swear. But it's great. It's great to see the inside. And how about how calm Opie is? And obviously, we were hearing Scotty's voice a lot more, but Opie and Lance. And I've spoken to Lance a lot in the last couple of weeks, and he's taken the attitude, well, we hope we win the Derby. Well, there's another Derby in Sydney. And they're real horse people. What I'm sort of learning a little bit from owning horses is that foremost, you hope they come back to the barn in one piece. That's what you care about. And you hope the jockeys come back in one piece. And I didn't sort of know that a lot till I owned my own horses. And that's how I now feel about it. But you see that through all the horse people. Horse coming home first is okay, and if we win, that's great too.
I think Lance O'Sullivan, as a jockey, knows that you win less races than you lose. You're going to lose a higher percentage, so that must get ingrained in you. You know, you savour those wins when they come, especially these big ones, because they don't come along that often.
Also, Aidan, it's $1.50 million. When you pay $1.50 million for them at the sales Aussie, plus all the plus, there's a lot of pressure that goes with that. And they've handled this pressure well because they've done their job already.
But haven't they had a good job for them? Like Summer Passage was Willie Cazell's spring heat for the Hermitage team, and they're a team that have had at the very highest level horses like the Autumn Sun and Egg Tart as well. So yeah, it's pretty cool that they're doing a job for them.
Yep. All right. Well, better get back to Thad Taylor, maybe just to find out what's happening with this Dragon Leap money. He suggested earlier in the show that maybe by the time the money really starts to flow in, that this is a horse who could possibly start a little bit tighter. So Thad, just give us another update on just how the market is travelling for the Derby.
Yeah, look, really interesting. Look, as we touched on at the top of the show, I think Dragon Leap is where the money is heading. Now, that's an early prediction. It'll be very interesting to see how this market shapes up. Will we see our first odds-on Derby favourite in quite some time? I think Silent Achiever, one of the shorter price favourite winners of the Derby, at around $2.10. Currently $2.40 Dragon Leap. That price has not moved as of yet, but it is under a bit of pressure early in proceedings. We've had $5,000 each way on Scorps to win the race at $14 and $2.90. But it has been a pretty good race for favourites. BP, the Derby, 8 out of 13. 8 out of the last 13 since they moved to March have been won by the favourite. So that is Dragon Leap. He'll make it 9 out of 14 in the Derby. As I say, a little bit of money for the long shots. Shakespeare, Dalmatia and Den Bosch. But look, Tualissa and Dragon Leap do dominate that market. We do think it is a two-horse race this year's Derby, and we'd be surprised if anyone can knock either of them off.
It's a Vodafone New Zealand Derby sort of covered off. It's a very strong undercard. So what else can you tell us around the other 9 races?
Look, I think everyone's kick-starting their day was Star Sa. I'll try and get that out, BP. Very unlucky last time out. Huge run at Te Rapa. $2.50 currently. I would suggest that price won't be holding up. So first call viewers, I would suggest shop early around Star Sa. Acutus going for 3 in a row. In the rating 72, 1200 metres, $5, good support there. Bergamot, the unlucky Bergamot last start in the Sunline Vase, $3.40, some good interest there. And Spring Heat, taking plenty of heat early in the King's Plate.
Let's head to Australia now, Thad. So much interest with our top New Zealand horses lining up out of Sydney and also Melbourne.
Yeah, boy, oh boy, BP. If the Derby's not enough, we've got 3 absolute superstars going around and flying the flag for us in Australia. Obviously, in the likes of Catalyst, Te Akau Shark and Probabeel. Look, Catalyst favourite in the Australian Guineas. That's exciting. Around that 2.5 mark. Te Akau Shark, as we've touched on, drawn the car park out there, but also around $2.50 in Probabeel in the surround stakes. Nice field, but we know how good she is at around $6. So that's going to be absolutely tantalising to watch. I think we're going to have a great couple of hours on Saturday evening there where we'll all be glued to our television screens. And with that in mind, BP, we're going to make the first call special this week surrounding those runners. Any two of those three that I just mentioned, Catalyst, Te Akau Shark, Probabeel, if any two of those three win in the first call special this week, you can have $6 in the first call special. I think the double at the moment for Te Akau Shark and Catalyst around 5.5. So we've increased the double price and we've chucked in Probabeel as a bonus for you guys on Derby weekend in the first call special.
Well, nice one, Thad. Gee, thanks for sticking around. You can head down to Mexico there in Jackson Street and get yourself a nice little burrito or something there. That's a big help having you on the show this evening. And that's a special at $6.
It's an interesting special too, and I love that. I'm thinking outside the square, there's going to be a lot of interest in those Kiwi horses in Australia. That'll interest you, that price too, wouldn't it, Michael?
I don't give Probabeel a chance. I love her. She's almost my favourite horse, but I don't think she can win this race, so I'm taking a double.
She's going to take the double.
And I think the double's about the same odds as it will be, 2.5 to 2.5. I think Catalyst will get about 2.3. So you're not getting a great spoil, but you are adding another horse, and if I'm wrong, Probabeel wins. You've got a safeguard there.
Yeah.
It could be over and done before you get.
Probabeel is still giving you that percentage in the market because it's like, you know, she's
it's going to be $7, so it'll give you
at least
it's giving you 14% back in the market.
Yeah.
People just. That's way too confusing. Just have a bet if you can. Sorry about that.
Well, one man that is keen to have a bet on the weekend and take us on, and we have a winner, and that's been Ryan Bellingham for the competition of $1,200 up for grabs in bonus bets. Ryan, if you can get Pineapple Girl to win at the Sunline Vase, I would say that will be enough to be able to beat us all here in the competition.
$12.
That would do it.
Probably do it.
Yeah, $1,200.
$1,200, yeah, jeez.
Yeah. So all the best, Ryan, with that. And we'll announce the winners as well for the $500 bet competition on the TPL. That's the Punters Lounge on Saturday morning. So you've got right up to Saturday morning to be able to put your thoughts in there of what you're liking and who you want to take your $500 on, who you want in the Derby. So who we're picking in the Derby for $500. So you've got till Saturday morning until that's announced. Okay, well, speaking of someone else that's still hanging around is Emily Boss, and she's just been whining and dining probably in Cambridge, but we'll get back to you. Emily, what are you liking for your best bet for the weekend?
Well, Brendan, I'm keeping my betting strategy pretty simple, and I'm having 100 to win on Dragon Leap. You might have heard me talking in recent weeks how I thought To Illicit was perhaps the better of the two, but when I did a little bit more research into their pedigrees, thanks to Andrew Stewart at Arium Pedigrees, it's just so hard to ignore Dragon Leap's staying credentials. That Piero Redout's Choice cross just producing any number of Derby winners already. Add that to the fact that my husband, Opie, he told me that he thought Dragon Leap was a really, really strong chance to win the way he relaxed in the race. He thought he was a certainty to make the distance and had any amount of class. They say your husband's always right, so sticking with Opie, 100 to win on Dragon Leap.
I live by that theory as well at home with the wife, to be honest. So, good work there, Emily.
Hope my wife's watching.
Okay, we better finish the show up. Now, we're going to just finish off with the best bets for the weekend. If you do want to look out for our strategies coming up, you can jump online. So, best bet for you, Aidan?
Yeah, I'm pretty keen on Stars Are in the first of the program. Terrific run for third at Te Rapa last time out against the pattern of that race, Angaria and obviously Reggie Wood, I think it was, and it was a big run
James
from
Barry.
a really James Barry, sorry. Yeah, Reggie Wood, one of mine.
But and Jay Tarn likes it as well.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. Michael, you got one for the weekend?
This is embarrassing. I was going to go Stars Are, but I'm not going to go that now because I'm going to go Trifilium. I think Trifilium will win there, take the 2.7, run it through other stuff. In the Derby, boys, are we changing? Has anything changed their mind tonight?
No.
I don't think so. Well, just tell us Gravitel first.
Gravitel. Yeah, that's the one I'm liking in the last race. So if everything goes pear-shaped, at least I've got to race 10 to rely on Lee Finnis and Lance Noble getting it done. I think the horse will be 800 to 2100 metres. Yep, Dragon Leap for me.
And for me?
You're Dragon Leap.
Yeah, I'm with them both.
Just get them both.
Yeah, that's not how that works, actually.
Okay, well, we started the show with Aidan Roddy giving us the emoji of unsure and the shrug of the shoulders, and we have a split bet on Dragon Leap until I said, well, I mean, it is flip of the coin, and there's a lot of people undecided which way to go. It's going to be down to the smallest margin to which way you want to go for this year's Derby, or is there something else outside of the two favourites? We've tried to break it down as best as possible for you. I hope we haven't confused it anymore. That is the TFC Derby Special, brought to you by Kamara Park.
When it comes to Friday, I always earn. Don't try to teach me, got nothing to learn. 'Cause baby, I'm gifted, you see what I mean? USDA certified lean, I'm the man. Come round. Nothing can break me down.